I was never supposed to be there. I think I knew that from the moment I opened the envelope. It was small, white, and perfumed. A formal invitation, my name written in calligraphy that didn't quite match everyone else's in the family group. Chad, the ink looked slightly different, like it had been added last. An afterthought, maybe. Or worse, a correction. It was an invitation to Anna's graduation gala. My cousin. The golden one. She was the first in our generation to get into a private university. The one who always had friends, always had answers, always had the newest. Phone before anyone else even knew it existed. Anna was kind in a way that felt practiced. Her hugs were quick, her compliments short, but they were always timed perfectly, enough to be polite, never warm. We grew up close. At least, geographically. She lived 2 blocks away. Our mothers were sisters, and every holiday was a shared event, tables full of tension masked by turkey, and laughter that always stopped just after I entered the room. I wasn't the college type. That was the joke. I didn't even apply. I worked at a small community arts center, helping kids with clay and finger paint. Minimum wage, no benefits. But it made me feel useful. My mother said, "You just haven't found your thing yet." Anna's mother said she always had such a quiet personality. They all said it like a softness, like my quiet was gentle, sweet. But I knew what they meant. Forgettable. When the invitation arrived. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. White card. Gold foil. The venue printed in serif, Astoria. Banquet hall, Saturday 7 p.m. A handwritten note at the bottom. Hope to see you there. Bring your best smile. It wasn't signed. I brought it to my mom. She blinked when she saw it. Double quotes. "Oh, you got one too." 2. As in, an exception. An obligation. Still, I marked it on the calendar. Bought a modest dress at the outlet store 2 towns over. Navy blue, on clearance. It made my eyes look darker. I didn't buy shoes. I planned to wear flats I already owned. Scuffed, but comfortable. The night of the event, I skipped dinner. I told myself it was because I didn't want to feel bloated in the dress. But the truth was, I didn't have enough for the ticket and a meal. The event wasn't free. Everyone had to chip in for the hall and catering. My mom paid half, I covered the rest. That was my entire grocery budget for the week. Still, I told myself it would be worth it. A night with family. Something light. Something different. Maybe a dance, a laugh. Maybe for once, I'd feel included. The hall was beautiful. Too beautiful maybe. White orchids on every table. A pianist playing near the entrance. Everyone wore something expensive, something that sparkled. I stood near the door for too long. Anna found me first. She smiled like she was holding in a yawn. "You came. So glad." She kissed the air near my cheek and moved on. Just like that, I found my table. Sat alone for 10 minutes before anyone else joined. My aunt and uncle, a cousin I barely knew. 2. Chairs remained empty, probably meant for someone else. We made polite conversation. No one asked what I'd been up to. They didn't need to. Everyone already knew the answer. Not much. Later in the evening, after Anna's speech, flawless. Of course, the music started and people began dancing. I lingered by the refreshment table, sipping watered-down soda and smiling at people who didn't see me. That's when it happened. I was refilling my glass when I overheard it. Anna, laughing, talking to her friend. I don't remember her name. Just her bright pink dress and the way she didn't lower her voice. She only got the invite because my mom felt bad. Anna said. Pause. Giggle. You know, like pity or whatever. They laughed again, not cruelly. Just casually, like it wasn't a big deal, like I wasn't standing 5 feet away. Glass in hand, heartbeat in my ears. I didn't confront her, didn't cry, didn't scream. I just walked away past the gift table, the coat rack, the expensive floral arrangement by the restroom. I pulled the ticket from my clutch, folded it once, then again, and tucked it into the pocket of my coat like a piece of myself I was no longer willing to display. There was a boy outside the building. Maybe 17, leaning against a railing, smoking something that smelled like vanilla and regret. He looked up when I stepped outside. "You leaving already?" he asked. I nodded Dot. He nodded back. Something about his posture told me he wasn't invited inside. Just hanging around, waiting, watching, forgotten. I reached into my pocket and held out the ticket. He stared at it. Then at me. "What's this?" "A seat," I said, "with your name on it." He hesitated Dot, then took it. "Thanks," he said. Smiled Dot, and for the first time that night, maybe the first time in months, I meant it. I walked. Home in silence. Dot, no music in my ears. No footsteps beside me. Just the sound of my own shoes against the pavement and the wind, picking up wrappers and regrets in equal measure. The air had turned cold while I was inside that hall, but I didn't notice it until I crossed the halfway. Point home. My coat wasn't warm enough and my dress clung to my skin like damp paper. I should have felt embarrassed, underdressed, underprepared, uninvited in every way that mattered. But I didn't. I felt clear, like something had burned off in that hall. And the smoke had finally settled. Dot at home. The lights were off. Mom had gone to bed early, probably tired from pretending to be proud in a room that didn't know how to hold pride for girls like me. I didn't wake her. I went to the kitchen, made tea I didn't drink, turned on the TV and muted it, just so something would move in the room other than me. On the screen, people were dancing, laughing. Dot, I watched their mouths move in silence and thought about how loud that room had been, Anna's gala, and how nothing in it had been meant. For me, Dot, the applause had been thunderous after her speech. I clapped too, even though my hands felt slow and distant. I remembered watching her bask in it, her head tilted just enough to show off the light, her dress shimmering with borrowed admiration. She stood tall because she always knew there'd be applause. I don't think I ever did Dot in my entire life. I can't recall a moment where someone clapped just for me. Dot, not the way they clapped for Anna. Dot, not the way they clapped for cousins who became doctors or lawyers or got married in expensive gowns. Dot, my milestones were quieter. I remember getting my first paycheck at the art center. Mom smiled. That was it. Dot, I remember saving enough to buy groceries for the week without overdrafting. No one knew. I remember helping a boy at the center learn to mold a bird from clay. He hugged me. That mattered. But there were no spotlights. Dot, no gold foil invitations. Dot, no applause. I used to think it didn't bother me, but I was fine being the shadow on the wall, the steady one, the helper, the one who remembered birthdays and stayed late. To clean up. Dot, but hearing Anna say the word pity out loud, like it was a favor, like I was a burden they had graciously included. It broke something. Dot, no, not broke. Dot, it uncovered something, a truth I hadn't wanted to admit. I wasn't invisible. I was reduced to a placeholder, reduced to the cousin they had to invite so it wouldn't look bad. Reduced to the girl who wouldn't ask questions, wouldn't make noise, wouldn't expect more than a seat in the back. I went to the mirror that night, took off the dress slowly. Like it might disintegrate. Dot, I folded it carefully and set it on. The chair, looked at myself. Dot, tried to see what they saw. The reason I was pitied and I couldn't, all I saw was someone tired. Someone who gave more than she received. Someone who'd been surviving applause she never earned, and maybe never wanted. Dot, in the morning, Mom asked how it went. Beautiful, I said. She smiled, sipping her coffee. She didn't ask anything else. Didn't offer, because some wounds don't need salt. They just need silence. No one called the next day. Dot, not Anna, not my aunt. Not anyone from that room full of relatives who toasted to her success like it was the only story worth telling. I scrolled through social media. Post after post. Photos from the gala, all professionally edited and color graded like a magazine spread. Anna glowing in gold, her friends smiling with wide teeth and half-sipped champagne flutes. Our family standing behind her in posed perfection. I wasn't in a single photo. Dot, not even in the background. Dot, it was as if I'd never been there at all. Dot, I searched for the boy I'd given the ticket to. I found him. There he was, right in the middle of a group shot on someone's Instagram story, laughing, dancing, mouth open wide like he was singing or shouting. His hands raised in mid-applause, He looked like he belonged there more than I ever did. I didn't feel jealous. I felt relief, because he used it. He used what I gave him, not just the ticket, but the space, the permission to be seen, the moment. That I was never really offered. He cheered louder than them, and they didn't care, because it was never about who was clapping, only about who fit the picture. I went to the kitchen and made coffee for myself, not out of routine, not for anyone else, just because I sat at the table and let the warmth fill my palms, and for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to explain myself to anyone that afternoon. I got a group message from one of the cousins. Thanks to everyone who made last night magical. Couldn't have done it without my amazing family. #grateful, #dream night. I didn't reply. I didn't like the message, and no one noticed. That was the part that stayed with me, not that I had been excluded, but that my absence didn't even leave a gap. 3 days later, I saw my aunt at the supermarket. She was picking out nectarines. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Oh, you were at the gala, right?" She said it like a guess, like she wasn't sure. I nodded. She didn't say, "It was so nice to see you." She didn't mention the dress or the ticket or me. Just said, "Wasn't Anna gorgeous?" I agreed. Because arguing with delusion only leaves you hoarse. I went home and opened my closet. The navy blue dress was still folded on the chair. I hadn't touched it since that night. I didn't put it away, didn't throw it out. I just stared at it, the weight of it, the stillness. It had served its purpose, which wasn't to be worn. It was to remind me what I wasn't allowed to be. Celebrated, claimed, included. And yet, strangely, there was peace in the forgetting. Because if it could erase me that easily, I could start doing the same, not out of revenge, but out of preservation. I keep thinking about that boy, the one outside the gala, leaning against the rail like he didn't belong to anything but the air. I don't know his name. I don't know if he danced, if he ate, if he clapped until his hands hurt. But I know this. He accepted what I gave him like it mattered. It wasn't much. A folded ticket, a secondhand seat, a space in a night meant for people with shinier lives. But when I handed it to him, his eyes widened, not in disbelief, but in recognition. He saw me. Not as someone desperate, or humiliated, or sad. Just as someone choosing. And that changed everything. I used to think power looked like Anna, standing on a stage, getting applause, wearing expensive things, and knowing exactly how to pose for a camera. But now I wonder if power is quieter than that. If sometimes power looks like walking away from a table where you were never fed, and handing your seat to someone who was never even invited inside. In the days that followed, I kept imagining him in the room, the boy. I pictured him laughing too, loudly, lifting his glass higher than anyone else. Maybe even dancing alone, not caring if anyone watched. Maybe they thought he was strange, or maybe they didn't notice him at all. Maybe that's the point. He didn't need their permission to belong. He just took up the space I never allowed myself to claim. It hit me while folding towels. That for years, I'd been chasing something that didn't actually exist. Their approval. The applause, the nods, the seat at the table, and maybe I would have kept chasing it forever if Anna hadn't said it out loud. "We only invited you out of pity." It was cruel, but it was honest. And in that honesty, she set me free. The cheer I gave away that night wasn't about generosity. It was about disobedience. It was me breaking the rules they'd written for me, that I should be grateful for scraps. That silence was safer than confrontation, that being included on their terms was better than being left out on mine. By giving that boy my ticket, I tore a small hole in their system. They didn't notice, but I did. And now I can't unsee it. I went back to the art center that week, helped a girl finish her painting. She showed me her work, bright swirls of color and a cat with 6 legs. I told her it was perfect. She looked at me with wide eyes and whispered, "You think so?" I nodded. "I know so." She smiled so big I thought her face would split in half, and in that moment, I realized I'd rather be the reason someone felt seen than spend one more minute begging to be noticed. That night, I found the navy blue. Dress folded exactly where I'd left it. I didn't try it on, I didn't cry, I just folded it one more time tighter. Cleaner, and placed it in a bag by the door. Maybe someone else would wear it someday. Someone who didn't need permission. Someone who danced without shame. Someone who cheered louder than the room. Family is supposed to mean safety. A net that catches you. A name that holds you. A table that always has a seat with your name, written in invisible ink. That's what we're told. But I've learned that some families are more like tightropes, and you walk them with your arms out, hoping not to fall, while everyone watches, pretending they aren't the ones who shook the wire. A week after the gala, my aunt called. I let it go to voicemail. She said, "Hey, sweetheart. Just wanted to say it was so nice having you at the event. Anna mentioned you had to leave early. Hope everything's all right. Let's catch up soon, okay?" No apology. No mention of what was said. No curiosity about why I left. Just a polite rewrite of history. As if the version she preferred was more important than the one I lived. I didn't call back, not out of spite, but out of clarity, because I know. Longer felt obligated to pretend. To perform the role of the quiet cousin who always shows up, always smiles, always stays at the edge of every photo. I had spent years trying to prove myself worthy of a seat at their table. Now I knew that table was never mine. And I didn't need it. Family, I realized, should never be a place where you're tolerated. It should be a place where you're welcome. Not out of pity, not out of guilt, but because you matter even when you're quiet, even when you don't shine like gold, even when your name isn't written first on the list. I started noticing how many family moments I'd endured out of obligation. Birthdays where I brought gifts and got none in return. Holidays where I cooked and cleaned while others took photos. Group chats I was added to, but never spoken to in moments where my silence filled a role no one ever thanked me for, and I realized they weren't family. They were an audience. And I was cast in a background role I never auditioned for. At the art center, I found something better. There was a janitor named Luis who brought an extra sandwich every day, just in case someone forgot lunch. There was a teenager named Shay who told me she felt safer painting than talking, and thanked me for never forcing her to do both. There was a boy who used to hide under the table during group time, until one day he crawled out, sat next to me, and held my pinky in silence. None of them shared my last name, but they saw me. They valued my presence. They asked about my day. They said, "Thank you." One afternoon, while helping clean brushes, Shay said, "You feel like home." And I felt something in my chest unclench. Not because I needed validation, but because that sentence held more warmth than all the hugs I'd ever faked at family dinners. I no longer chased approval from people who used my name like a whisper. I no longer answered messages that started with, "Sorry, we forgot to include you earlier." I stopped showing up for people who only remembered me when it made them look generous, because love isn't real if it requires proof of worth. And family, real family, invites you because you exist, not because someone told them it would be nice. It took me years to realize that not being clapped for doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it just means you're applying to the wrong crowd. One evening, I stayed late at the art center. Everyone had gone home. The halls were quiet, the lights humming softly overhead. I sat alone in the clay room, spinning a small bowl on the wheel. My hands were coated in soft gray slip. The world felt hushed, safe. I didn't think about Anna or my aunt or that night in the banquet hall. I just thought about the bowl, the shape of it, how centered it felt, how solid, how it was mine. When it was finished, I didn't sign it. I just set it on the drawing shelf and turned off the light. And in the dark, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not joy, not pride, just enough. I still see them sometimes. My family, weddings, birthdays, baby showers. They greet me with smiles like nothing happened. Sometimes Anna gives me that same half hug and says, "We should catch up soon." And I say, "Sure." But we never do. Because there's nothing left to catch. I no longer chase conversations that float past me like smoke. I no longer nod through compliments that sting more than they soothe. I'm polite. But I'm not present because being in a room doesn't mean you're seen. And I've spent enough years. Disappearing politely. The navy dress is gone. Donated. Passed. On worn by someone else. Maybe. Sometimes I imagine her, a girl I'll never meet, wearing it to her own version of the night. But not standing in the back. No. Dancing. Spinning. Laughing. From her belly, cheering so loud the whole room turns. To look. Is for me. I still work at the center. I still drink cheap coffee. I still prefer silence to speeches. But now, when I walk into a room, I don't scan for approval. I breathe because I know who I am. And I know who I'm not. I'll never get a standing ovation. No. Stage. No flowers. No champagne, but some days I walk home as the sun sets, and the wind brushes against my skin like applause only I can hear. And that's enough. That's mine. That's my own applause.